Hello everybody, I'm Maria and welcome back to my Nook. Today's video is going to be a bit different, but also not too different at all. Essentially, this is going to be a reading vlog, but like themed. So it's different, you know? I'm just trying to do something other than just casual, normal reading vlogs, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to give them a little something, sprinkle a little bit of something else in there. So lately I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube of people showing their entire physical TBR, and honestly I love those videos. First up, because they give me inspiration for books that I might want to read. Second of all, because they make me feel significantly less bad about my own physical TBR. But I still feel bad about my own physical TBR. And that is basically the point of this video. So I feel like I have too many books on my physical TBR, but most importantly, I feel like I'm not really managing to decrease my physical TBR. It somehow just keeps growing, or it keeps stagnating at the same number-ish, and I don't like it. So this video is going to be me trying to cut down my physical TBR. And now, before you think that I'm going to read like 7 books in this video, that's not going to be happening, because I am a slow reader. I'm rather planning to make this a sort of series where I just make videos every now and then in which I try to read books off of my physical TBR and like update you on my physical TBR, stuff like that. Let me first tell you how many books I have on my physical TBR, right? So I know I said that I feel like I have too many books on my physical TBR, and you probably assume that I have like 70, 80, 100 books on my physical TBR, like plenty of other people on BookTube and BookTok and Bookstagram do. In fact, I currently have 35 books on my physical TBR. And I know that doesn't sound much compared to those other physical TBRs, which is exactly why all those physical TBR videos make me feel significantly less bad about my own. And by the way, I have realized how many times I've been saying the word physical TBR already. And I've only been filming for like 3.5 minutes, so I'm going to try and cut that down. But there's not really another word for it, is there? Even though there are only 35 books on my physical TBR, said it again, I know, I still feel like it's a bit much. And as I already said, the most annoying thing about it is that it just keeps stagnating. And if anything happens about it, it keeps growing. Like, it just doesn't get any less. So I'm going to try to do that now. I have been tracking my physical TBR in Notion and Goodreads and Storygraph for quite a while already. I definitely started tracking it in Notion at the very beginning of 2023. I don't quite remember if I had been tracking it before that on Goodreads and or Storygraph already. But I've definitely been tracking it on Notion since the beginning of January. And as you can see here, I have basically been tracking every month how many unread books I have on my physical TBR on the first day of the month, basically. And then how many books I read or unhaul during the month of my physical TBR. Like, that's not counting the books I borrow from the library, for example, because that obviously doesn't change anything about my physical TBR. And then I'm also tracking the books that I acquire. You can see here that I sometimes write down, like, for example, 2 and then +1. That usually means that I bought 2 books that I haven't read yet and 1 book that I bought new but have already read. So I acquired it freshly, but it doesn't count towards my physical TBR because I already read it and then bought it because I loved it so much, for example, you know? That sort of thing. And you can see that I started the year with a physical TBR of only 26 books. Well, now I'm at 35, so it hasn't been going very well. And I do feel like it's not because I've been reading too little. It's more that I've been reading more books that I borrow from the library instead of reading books off of my physical TBR. So I technically could read as many books as I buy. In most months, at least, I read about as many books as I buy, or even more. But I just also read a lot of books that I borrow from the library, so that doesn't help my physical TBR. And the first book that I want to get off of my physical TBR now is also a book that I want to read for a readathon, where we read 1 book per month of a series, and that is the Ranger's Apprentice series. This month we are reading the 5th book in the sort of main series of Ranger's Apprentice, and that is The Sorcerer in the North by John Flanagan. I do believe that in some countries this book is called The Sorcerer of the North, but I'm not entirely sure. I just know that in some countries there's a very slight change to the title. This is a book that I want to read this month, and that is also going to help me get 1 book off of my physical TBR. So I actually have no idea what this book is about because I haven't read the synopsis or anything. I read the first 4 books and then the 7th book, which, like, it makes sense that way in the Ranger's Apprentice series. And now, by chronological order, I should read the 5th book, in which, and I don't think this is a spoiler, Will is a fully fledged ranger. This is the first book in the series in which he is a fully fledged ranger, and I don't believe this is a spoiler because the series is literally titled Ranger's Apprentice, so that kind of implies that at some point he's going to finish his apprenticeship, right? Especially since there's 11 books in the series. So that's what's happening, I guess. And I'm gonna dive into this book and hope that it's going to be fun. I have enjoyed the other books I've read in the series so far, and I'm really looking forward to getting 1 book off of my physical TBR, so let's go. Alright, it's been 2 days and I wanted to give you a reading update on my progress in The Ranger's Apprentice, The Sorcerer in the North. I finished chapter 18 tonight. I'm on page 156, so I do feel like I've made some good progress, especially compared to how much I've been reading lately. Like, on average, I usually read less per day than I've been reading per day in this book. Did that make any sense? I hope so. I also kind of set myself the goal to finish this book in July, and there's like 2 days left in July. So I don't know if I will manage this, but I really hope so. I didn't have any time to read today, basically, because my dad celebrated his birthday today and it was so busy and chaotic. I read like 5 pages in this book today. But I'm hoping that I'll have more time to read tomorrow and the day after, and that I will be able to finish it before the end of July. So what's been going on in this book? I already mentioned that Will is a fully fledged ranger in this book, which means that he was assigned to his own fief that he has to look after as a ranger. And honestly, it feels a little weird because for 5 books, I've seen him as a ranger's apprentice. And now he's just on his own without his teacher and like looking after his own fief and just doing everything by himself, and it feels a little weird. I feel like this is probably sort of what mothers feel like when their children grow up and like move out of the house and stuff like that, you know? It's a bit odd of a feeling, let me tell you. But I'm also really enjoying it because Will is so grown up and like I love seeing him take on this challenge for himself. Then there's this part where he's been assigned this mission where he has to go undercover to find out information about something. And that's what he's basically doing right now. And I love the part where he's undercover right now. It's also slightly creepy or eerie because there's something going on that like not everyone believes in. Some people do believe in it. Some people are like on the fence on whether they believe in it or not. And now Will has to kind of figure this out, you know? Or at least try to gather information about it. And I find it interesting so far, and I'm really enjoying seeing Will do this mission. And we've also seen some characters from other books, like from the time when Will was still an apprentice, which I really enjoyed. Oh my god, I love their interactions so much. And yeah, I'm like almost halfway through the book now, I think. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the second half of this book will go, since so far there hasn't been much action going on in the way that like I feel like I don't actually know what's going to happen in this book because I still haven't read the synopsis, but I feel like the main mission is only really starting now. I also really like how the time jumps for traveling and stuff are handled. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far and I'm looking forward to continuing reading this book. Alright, it's the next day again, and I made so much reading progress in The Sorcerer in the North today. I read 86 pages in this book, and I'm pretty proud of that because I feel like it's been a while since I last read that many pages in a book in one day. Honestly, maybe it hasn't been that long, but I feel like lately I often do this thing where I read maybe 20 to 40 pages per day in a book for multiple days, and then suddenly I feel like, oh my gosh, I've been reading this book for so many days already, I kind of want to have it done. And then suddenly I just read 100 pages in a day and then another 90 the next day, just to like get it done. And that's an imbalance in the reading pace that isn't always beneficial to my reading experience, let me tell you. So I'm sort of trying to fix that, but I guess it's not really working with this book either, to be honest. Anyway, I read a lot today, and I finished chapter 28, and I'm on page 242. The action has picked up. We've gathered a lot more information about stuff, and to be honest, some of it was pretty predictable. Like the moment something came up that Will had to find out more about or like figure out, I was like, it's probably this. And like the moment one thing was mentioned, I was like, oh, I bet this is that, you know? And I was right. So at least two things were pretty predictable in that way, but to be fair, this is a kids and teenagers fantasy book, so I don't expect the most intricate of plot twists that I might expect from a high fantasy book. It's still very enjoyable, and as I already said, the action has picked up now. We've gotten to know something else that kind of twists the whole story and puts it into a different light, especially for Will. And now he had to basically change his entire approach toward his mission. And he had to be very spontaneous just now. And that was very adventurous. And that was an action scene where he used his bow and everything. And I was like, yes, that's my boy. But he's not a boy anymore. He's a man now. I'm enjoying it for sure. I'm not sure if I'm enjoying it as much as I've enjoyed other Ranger's Apprentice books, but I'm having a good time reading it. And that's always great. And also, I've been thinking about the pace of this book. Like at first I was thinking, ooh, this is kind of setting it all up pretty slowly, and I think 75% into the book, and the action is now picking up. Might be a bit slow, but then again, it is a rather short book, and it's a kids and teenagers book, and it is the first half of a 2-book story arc within a series. And like the second book, which is the 6th book, but the second book in this story arc will obviously continue this plot. And therefore, I don't expect the plot to be finished at the end of this book, right? At the end of this book, it'll probably be like in the middle. It's probably going to end on a cliffhanger kind of situation. I should probably judge the pace of the story arc of like the 5th and the 6th book combined, instead of only judging the pace of the 5th book, if that makes any sense. I guess it makes sense for the Ranger's Apprentice series, and probably for a few other series out there that I haven't read yet. As I said, I'm enjoying it right now, and I'm enjoying the few twists and turns that Will has to kind of figure out now how to deal with them. I'm definitely looking forward to reading the rest of this book, and I should absolutely stop flipping through the last 25% of the book that I haven't read yet, because I might get spoiled. So don't do that to yourself, and I'll stop that now. I am going to continue reading this book tomorrow. I have, I think, 87 pages left of the book, which I think I might be able to finish tomorrow. Maybe I don't get to it, but I hope I will. it is the next day and I have actually managed to finish The Sorcerer in the North by John Flanagan, which means that I have finished it in July still. I'm so happy I managed to do that because I accomplished my goal, and that also means that, first of all, I took one book off of my physical TBR. Second, that means that I'm going into August with one book less on my physical TBR. And that feels good, my friends, let me tell you. Now, first up, what happened in the last 87 pages of this book that I read today? A lot happened. As I had already told you in my last update, the action was picking up, you know, and there was quite some action. My god. Like, I was sitting on the edge of my seat. To be fair, it's still a kids and teenagers book, so probably not the same kind of tension that some high fantasy books have, but still some good tension that I really enjoyed. And honestly, the last like 30 to 40-ish% of this book made me think that yes, this is why I like this series and this is what I enjoy about these books. Because in the first, I don't know, third or something of this book, I thought, do I even still want to continue this series? Why do I keep picking these books up, you know? But then the book turned me around and I was like, yep, this is why I definitely want to continue the series still. And I'm definitely still enjoying it, and I'm so looking forward to reading the 6th book, The Siege of Mekindar, I believe it is called. Because as I had predicted, this book ended on a good old cliffhanger, which, like, I've experienced worse cliffhangers in books, but it's still not that fun, you know, when you don't have the next book immediately available to pick it up. So that's a situation, but I definitely enjoyed this book. I'm not quite sure about my star rating on it yet, but I'll figure that one out. Just, I enjoyed the book. And there was this whole like mystery aspect to Will's mission and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. And then the tension at the end, ooh, so good. As I have already said, that means that I have taken one book off of my physical TBR, which means that I've only got 34 books on my physical TBR left at the moment. And I'm happy with that. Like, small steps are still steps, you know? I'm really hoping that I can at some point actually show you my physical TBR pile, which I currently cannot do because I don't have it at hand. But maybe soon. Anyway, I'm really happy that I managed to get one book off of my physical TBR. As I already said, small steps are still steps, right? So yeah, with that, I will let you guys go. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe give it a thumbs up and perhaps subscribe to my channel. If you want, you could let me know down in the comments how big is your physical TBR. And if you don't want to tell me that, that's fine. You can just tell me anything else you would like to let me know. And otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video or somewhere else on the internet. Bye!